I'm Emily Hayes, 29 years old, sitting at my parents' dinner table in Scottsdale. My sister Jessica's wedding invitation is right there, date circled tomorrow. I'm genuinely excited. Dress laid out, travel plans made. Mom, I start beaming. I can barely wait for tomorrow. She freezes, can't meet my eye. Emily, she whispers, voice trembling. The wedding, it was actually last week. The air goes thin. A fake date. They planned this. Excluded me. After every check I wrote, every crisis I funded, a cold resolve settles in. They thought I was just their ATM. They're about to get a withdrawal notice they never expected. Ever been cut out by the people you supported most? Let me know where you're watching from, and hit like if you know this pain. That night, back in my Tempe apartment, the fake invitation felt heavy in my hands, like a prop from a badly written play. How had I missed the signs? The quiet dismissals, the constant comparisons, the way my accomplishments always seemed less somehow than Jessica's fleeting interests. Growing up in our Scottsdale house, it felt like living under two different roofs. There was Jessica's world, bright and applauded, and then there was mine, quiet in the background. She was the outgoing one, the natural charmer. I was the kid, huddled over a keyboard, finding more comfort in lines of code than in family gatherings. It's a classic dynamic, really. Psychology even has names for it. They talk about the gilded cage and the land of exile. In families like mine, it isn't about love. Not really. It's about control, often driven by the parents' own insecurities. Jessica, the golden child, lived in that gilded cage. She got all the praise, all the attention, but only as long as she stayed within the lines, fulfilling their expectations. Me, I was pushed out to the emotional fringes, the land of exile. I carried the weight of being different, the quiet one, the tech nerd. But here's the paradox: they never mention exile, in its own strange way, brings freedom. Freedom from that relentless pressure to please, to perform. It's ironic, isn't it? Sometimes the cage is more suffocating than the exile. The one inside never learns they have wings, while the one pushed out, they have no choice but to figure out how to fly. The differences started small. Jessica would bring home a B- on a test, and there'd be celebrations, ice cream praise for her effort. I'd ace an advanced calculus exam, and Dad would nod, maybe grunt expected. My passion was computers. By 13, I was building websites for local businesses, saving every penny. Dad called it fiddling with gadgets. Jessica took up pottery, then photography, then jewelry making. Each hobby funded by Mom and Dad, each abandoned after a few months. Her fleeting interests were creative exploration. My dedicated skill building was fiddling. College laid the divide bare. Jessica floated through a communications degree at a private liberal arts school tuition, paid rent, covered lifestyle, subsidized. I worked. I worked waiting tables, coding freelance projects late into the night, stacking student loans on top of a partial scholarship to Arizona State University for computer science. I lived with 3 roommates in a cramped apartment miles from campus because it was what I could afford. Even then, the calls would come. 4 years ago, Jessica decided she needed to become a certified lifestyle influencer. She enrolled in some ridiculously expensive online course, promising it would launch her brand. A month later, the credit card bill arrived, $25,000 she couldn't pay. The tearful call came late on a Tuesday. Emily, I messed up. Can you help me? Just this once. I'll pay you back, I swear. I drained my emergency fund, the money I'd painstakingly saved from freelance gigs. $25,000 gone. Did she pay me back? Of course not. Did she even thank me properly? Barely a word. Then, last year, It was Mom and Dad. Dad had some unexpected medical bills after a minor surgery, and the house suddenly needed urgent roof repairs. $40,000, they said, looking stressed and overwhelmed. We just don't know where we'll get it. Emily Mom had sighed, that familiar look of helpless appeal in her eyes. I took out a personal loan, adding to my own financial burden because that's what I did. I was the reliable one, the fixer, the safety net. $40,000. Dad mumbled something about being grateful. Mom hugged me a little too tightly, like she was absolving herself of guilt. Meanwhile, Jessica's influencer career never quite took off. She worked odd jobs, mostly short-lived marketing gigs she'd embellish wildly when talking to Mom and Dad. But her social media, it painted a picture of effortless success. Brunch's boutique, shopping weekends away, funded, I suspected, by a combination of parental handouts and my past generosity. And then there was the Palm Springs condo. 3 years ago, I'd found a place I could actually afford, a 2-bedroom condo in a slightly older complex, but in a great location. $250,000. It took almost everything I had saved, plus a hefty mortgage, but I saw the potential. It was an investment, a tangible piece of my future. I didn't plan on living there myself. My work was in Phoenix. But my parents loved Palm Springs. They talked about retiring there someday. So I made an offer, maybe foolishly generous in hindsight. You guys can use it whenever you want, I'd told them. Maybe even manage renting it out sometimes. Keep a percentage for your trouble. Put the rest toward upkeep or taxes. They jumped at the chance. Dad handled the rental listings. Mom decorated it with her signature style. It became their weekend getaway, their rental property, to casually mention to friends. I paid the mortgage, the property taxes, the HOA fees. They sent occasional vague statements about rental income, usually followed by requests for money, for unexpected repairs or new furniture. I trusted them. It felt like a way to contribute, to be part of their lives, even as my own path diverged. Looking back now, sitting in my quiet Tempe apartment, the pattern was nauseatingly clear. I wasn't just the afterthought. I was the infrastructure, the silent, reliable utility, keeping their lights on, funding their comforts, and Jessica's fantasies while being politely excluded from the actual warmth of the family circle. My success wasn't something to celebrate. It was something to leverage. My savings weren't for my future. They were the family slush fund. And the condo, it wasn't my investment. It was just another asset they felt entitled to control. The fake invitation wasn't an oversight. It was a symptom of a much deeper disease. Still reeling the condo, feeling too quiet, too empty, I did the only thing that felt remotely grounding. I called Aunt Jennifer. She's Mom's younger sister, but they're night and day. Jennifer built her own career in marketing, moved to Denver, always treated me like an equal, not an obligation. She picked up on the third ring. Emily, everything okay? You sound off. Her immediate concern, the lack of judgment in her voice, almost undid me. Aunt Jen, I started my voice catching. Something happened. About Jessica's wedding. I spilled everything. The dinner, the fake invitation, Mom's flimsy explanation. I didn't even realize I was crying until Jennifer made a soft shushing sound. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry, she said, her voice full of genuine empathy. There was a pause, a heavy sigh on her end. Look, I wasn't going to say anything. I didn't want to be the one, but you deserve to know the truth. My stomach twisted. What truth? Jessica, she orchestrated this, Emily. The fake date, making sure you wouldn't be there. The words landed like stones. Jessica, my own sister. Why? It's about Brandon Jennifer. explained her tone, laced with frustration. His family, they're, well, you know, old money, very image conscious. Jessica's been spinning this whole narrative about her brand, her success. She was terrified of what, of you, Jennifer said bluntly. She told your mom you'd overshadow her, that your actual success, the fact you built your company from nothing, made her look less impressive, that you didn't fit the aesthetic she was going for with Brandon's family, didn't fit the aesthetic. My mind flashed back to every family photo where I was slightly out of focus, every holiday dinner where my work was dismissed while Jessica's latest whim was praised. It wasn't just about the wedding day. It was about my entire existence clashing with the curated image they wanted to project. "And Mom?" I asked, dreading the answer. She went along with it. Jennifer sighed again. "Karen, she just wants peace." Jessica pushed, and your mom folded. Said you were strong, self-reliant, that you'd understand. Easier to manage your quiet disappointment than Jessica's potential meltdown, I guess. Easier, simpler, less messy for them. My quiet disappointment versus Jessica's drama. The calculation was brutal, clinical. My own mother had weighed the options and decided sacrificing my feelings was the path of least resistance. And Dad Robert just stayed out of it. You know how he is. Avoids conflict unless it directly impacts his routine. His silence wasn't neutrality. It was complicity. Jennifer's voice turned firm. "Listen to me, Emily. This isn't about you lacking anything. This is about their insecurity, their ridiculous focus on appearances, and Jessica's deep-seated jealousy. You built an incredible life for yourself completely on your own terms. Don't you let them make you doubt that for 1 second." Her words were like a lifeline. Validation. The external confirmation I didn't even know I desperately needed. It wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was them. Their issues, their warped priorities. Fulfills R4 ally. "What are you going to do?" Jennifer asked gently. The question hung in the air. Before this call, I was just hurt, confused, adrift in their betrayal. Now the hurt was crystallizing into something else. Anger, yes, but also a cold, hard clarity. "I don't know yet," I admitted, "but I know what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. I'm not going to smooth it over. And I'm definitely not going to keep funding a life for people who treat me like this." "Good," Jennifer said, her approval palpable. "You draw your line, Emily. You hold it. You owe them nothing after this." We talked for another hour. She offered her guest room in Denver if I needed an escape practical advice on navigating family blowback, and just listened without judgment. By the time we hung up, the tears were gone, replaced by a steely resolve. They thought I was just the quiet, reliable tech nerd they could sideline when inconvenient. They thought I was the endless source of funds they could tap into while simultaneously minimizing my worth. They thought I'd just absorb this hurt like all the others and eventually come back ready to play my assigned role again. They were about to find out just how wrong they were. The foundation they'd been leaning on, the one they took for granted, it was about to develop some serious cracks. And this time, I wouldn't be there to patch them up. The drive to my parents' Scottsdale house the next morning felt different. Usually, I'd approach these visits with a sense of resignation, bracing myself for the subtle digs, the comparisons, the feeling of being slightly out of sync. Today, there was only a cold, hard clarity. Jennifer's words echoed in my mind. This isn't about you lacking anything. This is about their insecurity. I parked my car behind Dad's familiar sedan, took a deep breath, and walked up the pristine pathway. No hesitation, just purpose. Mom Karen opened the door before I knocked her expression a mixture of apprehension and forced cheerfulness. Emily, we weren't expecting you so soon. Her voice was a little too bright. We need to talk, I said, stepping past her into the cool, perfectly decorated entryway. Dad Robert was in the living room, pretending to read the newspaper, the picture of detached authority. Jessica sat, curled on the sofa, scrolling through her phone, radiating an air of studied nonchalance. The tableau of denial. Talk about what Honey Mom asked following me. Why don't I get you some coffee? No coffee, Mom, I said, turning to face them. The three of them looked up, caught off guard by my tone. It lacked the usual politeness, the deference they expected. I know about the wedding invitation, I stated, my voice level cutting through the morning quiet. I know the date was faked. I know the wedding was last week, and I know you did it deliberately to exclude me. Silence. Thick, heavy silence. Jessica finally looked up from her phone, her expression shifting from boredom to defiance. Mom wrung her hands. Dad lowered his newspaper slowly, his brow furrowed. Ashley Mom began using the old nickname they used when trying to soften me up. It was complicated. Jessica was under so much stress with the wedding, and Brandon's family... Don't blame Brandon's family. I cut her off, Aunt Jennifer told me. Jessica didn't want me there because I'd overshadow her, because my actual success didn't fit the image she wanted. Jessica's head snapped up, her eyes flashing. Aunt Jennifer needs to mind her own business and, fine, yes, I didn't want you there. The admission, raw and unapologetic, hung in the air. This was the emotional climax Jennifer had warned me about, the ugly truth laid bare. Your job, your quiet confidence. The way you don't need anyone, Jessica spat. Standing up now, pacing the immaculate living room. You make people uncomfortable, Emily. You always have. You walk into a room and you just dominate without even trying. It was my day, my one day, to be the center of attention without my brilliant older sister stealing the spotlight just by existing. Her words meant to wound landed differently this time. They weren't a reflection of my flaws. They were a confession of her own deep-seated insecurity and jealousy. The golden child terrified of being outshone, even by the siblings she simultaneously relied upon and resented. So you conspired with Mom and Dad to lie to me, to exclude me from my own sister's wedding. I kept my voice calm, refusing to match her rising hysteria. It wasn't like that Mom interjected quickly, stepping forward as if to shield Jessica. We just thought, you're so self-reliant, Emily. You have your own life, your own successes. Jessica. She needed this to be just about her, for once. And there it was, the justification wrapped in a backhanded compliment. It reminded me of something I'd read about manipulation disguised as love. There's such a fine line between care and control, and that line often gets blurred by the word family. When someone says, we did it because we care about her right before explaining why they hurt you, it's not about care, it's about control. Real love expands your world. Control shrinks it down to fit someone else's expectations. Love asks, what do you need? Control dictates. This is what you must accept. Recognizing that difference, that's the first step to freeing yourself. Needed it, I repeated, turning to face my mother fully. Needed to deceive her sister. Needed to pretend I didn't exist. Is that the kind of support you're teaching her? Mom flinched. You're twisting my words. I looked at Dad, who had remained silent, observing. And you, Dad, you just went along with this? He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Your mother and sister, they felt strongly. I thought it best to keep the peace. Keep the peace by sacrificing his other daughter. His complicity, his passive agreement to prioritize Jessica's manufactured image over my actual place in the family was perhaps the deepest cut of all. Keep the peace, I echoed the words, tasting like ash. While I'm paying for your medical bills, while I'm covering debts, Jessica racks up. While I'm paying the mortgage and taxes on the Palm Springs condo, you all treat like your personal resort. The mention of the condo shifted the energy in the room. Jessica stopped pacing. Mom looked startled. Dad finally met my eyes. A flicker of something, alarm, crossing his features. The condo has nothing to do with this, he said quickly, his voice regaining some of its usual authority. Doesn't it? I pressed. I've poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into this family over the years, bailed Jessica out of her influencer course debt, $25,000 she never repaid, covered your $40,000 medical and repair bills, Dad, all while being told I'm fiddling with gadgets or that I need to be more like my sister. I paused, letting the weight of the numbers settle, all while trusting you to manage my condo, my investment. We managed it perfectly well, Mom said defensively. Did you? I held their gaze. Did you manage it well when you decided to exclude the actual owner from family events? When you decided my presence wasn't welcome? Jessica scoffed. Oh, stop being so dramatic, Emily. It was one party. It was my sister's wedding. My voice finally rose the calm, cracking. An event I was excited about. An event I took time off work for. An event you deliberately, calculatedly lied to keep me away from after years of taking my money and my support for granted. I looked from Jessica's defiant face to Mom's tearful but unapologetic one to Dad's stony avoidance. There was no remorse here, no understanding of the depth of their betrayal, only excuses, justifications, and the same old patterns of entitlement and dismissal. I see, I said quietly, the anger receding, replaced by a profound, chilling certainty. I finally see. I turned and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Mom called out, alarmed. Emily, don't just walk away. We need to fix this. There's nothing to fix, Mom, I said, turning back briefly, my hand on the doorknob. You made your priorities clear. Now I'm making mine. What's that supposed to mean? Jessica demanded, crossing her arms. It means, I said, looking directly at her, then at my parents, that the bank is closed. My announcement hung in the air, the silence stretching. The bank is closed, Dad finally repeated, his voice tight with disbelief. What exactly does that mean, Emily? It means I'm done, I said, my voice steady. Done. Funding Jessica's projects, done. Covering your unexpected expenses, done being the emergency contact for every financial hiccup this family creates. Jessica let out a sharp, mocking laugh. Oh, please. You act like you're some kind of billionaire. You've helped out, sure, but don't pretend it's been some huge sacrifice. $25,000 for your failed influencer course wasn't a sacrifice, I countered. $40,000 for Dad's medical bills and the roof repairs wasn't a sacrifice. Years of paying the mortgage taxes and HOA on the Palm Springs condo, my condo, while you guys collect the rental income wasn't a sacrifice. Mom gasped. Emily, we agreed the rental income would cover the upkeep. Did it? I challenged. Or did it cover Jessica's wedding dress? Maybe the deposit on the venue? Because the vague statements I received never quite matched the potential income from a Palm Springs rental, especially during peak season. The mention of the condo, specifically the rental income, hit a nerve. Jessica flushed. Dad shifted his weight, suddenly looking older, cornered. Mom avoided my eyes completely. We needed that income to maintain the property properly, Dad insisted. But his voice lacked conviction. It's a valuable asset. We couldn't let it fall into disrepair. A valuable asset I purchased, I reminded him. $250,000 3 years ago. All my savings plus a mortgage I pay every single month. An investment I made which I generously allowed my family to use and manage. Allowed, Jessica scoffed. It's the family condo. No, Jessica, I said, the calmness in my voice feeling like solid ground beneath me. It's my condo, sole ownership. The title is in my name only. I have the documents to prove it. This revelation landed differently. Their previous arguments had been about emotional obligation, about family duty. This was about legal ownership, about tangible assets. This was a language my father, the insurance manager, understood. You bought it outright, Mom whispered, looking genuinely shocked. With a mortgage which I pay, I clarified. The arrangement was based on trust, Mom. Trust that you would manage it responsibly. Trust that the rental income would primarily go towards my investment, not towards whatever else it's been funding. Now, wait a minute. Dad started attempting to regain control. We've managed that property perfectly. Did you manage it perfectly when you used the income, my income, to help pay for Jessica's wedding? I asked, directly watching their faces. This was the secondary twist, the deeper betrayal. Silence again. Jessica looked at Mom, who looked at Dad, who suddenly seemed intensely interested in a spot on the carpet. The lack of denial was deafening. You knew, I pressed Mom. You used my rental income for her wedding, the same wedding you lied to keep me away from. Mom started to cry, silent tears streaming down her face. Jessica needed help. Brandon's family, the expectations. We didn't think you'd mind. Mind. The word felt inadequate. You took money generated by my asset without my knowledge or permission to fund an event designed to exclude me. You don't think I'd mind? Jessica finally erupted. Okay, fine. Yes, we used some of the condo money. It wasn't that much. And it's practically family money anyway. There is no family money, I snapped, the calm finally breaking. There's the money I earn, and there's the money you all spend. And that arrangement ends today. I pulled out my phone. Effective immediately, I am reclaiming full control of the Palm Springs property. I'll be changing the locks. I'll be managing the rentals myself or through a professional agency. All future income will come directly to me. And I expect a full accounting of the past 3 years' rental income and expenditures. You can't just do that, Dad blustered, stepping forward. We have bookings agreements. Watch me, I said, my thumb hovering over my lawyer's contact. Elizabeth Vance specializes in contract and property law. I think she'll find this situation interesting. The mention of a lawyer, a specific name, stopped them cold. This wasn't just an emotional outburst anymore. This was a calculated move, a shift in power they hadn't anticipated. Emily, please, Mom pleaded, stepping between me and Dad. Don't do this. Think about what this will do to the family. I am thinking about the family, Mom, I said, my voice hardening again. I'm thinking about the member of this family who has been consistently undervalued, exploited, and disrespected. And I'm finally putting her first. I dialed Elizabeth's number. She answered on the second ring, her voice calm and professional. Elizabeth, it's Emily Hayes. Something's come up regarding the Palm Springs property. Yes, the one we discussed. It seems my family has been misappropriating funds. I need to move forward with reclaiming full control immediately. Can you start the paperwork? I held my parents' and sister's gaze as I listened to Elizabeth confirm she could. The shock, The anger, the dawning panic on their faces was a painful sight. But it was overshadowed by a stronger feeling, the quiet, resolute click of a lock falling into place, securing a boundary that should have been established years ago. Elizabeth Vance's office was minimalist and modern, all clean lines and cool glass, a stark contrast to the cluttered emotional landscape I'd just escaped. She listened intently as I laid out the situation, the fake invitation, the years of financial support, the condo ownership, the misappropriated rental income used for Jessica's wedding. Her expression remained neutral, but her eyes held a sharp focus that was oddly comforting. "This is clearer than most cases I handle," she said when I finished tapping a pen on a pristine legal pad. "You have sole title to the Palm Springs property. The rental income mismanagement is a breach of fiduciary trust, albeit an informal one. And the exclusion from the wedding, while emotionally devastating, establishes a pattern of behavior that strengthens your position regarding financial separation." She outlined the steps, first asserting immediate control over the condo. A formal letter informing my parents their management role was terminated. Arranging for a locksmith and a property management company in Palm Springs. Second, untangling the finances, closing the old joint savings account. Formally notifying the lender for that $25,000 influencer course loan, the one I'd co-signed years ago, that primary responsibility now rested solely with Jessica and the original agreement, signatories removing my name where legally possible, or asserting my position as merely a guarantor of last resort. Third, reviewing any other potential financial entanglements. "We'll send formal notices regarding the condo and the loan shift today," Elizabeth stated. "I'll coordinate with a locksmith and a reputable property manager in Palm Springs. You should change all your personal bank account passwords immediately if you haven't already." "Did that last night," I confirmed. "They tried accessing a linked account." Elizabeth raised an eyebrow, but didn't comment further, simply making another note. The efficiency was bracing. This wasn't a messy family argument. It was a series of logical legal steps. Detachment, severance. Over the next few days, Elizabeth's office moved quickly. Notices were sent via certified mail. A Palm Springs property manager was engaged, reporting back that the condo was in decent shape, but clearly being treated more like a party pad than a valuable asset. The locks were changed. New online rental listings were created under the agency's name, directing all inquiries and income to an account solely under my control. Closing that old joint savings account felt particularly symbolic. It held less than $50, but it represented the last formal financial link, the conduit through which guilt and obligation had flowed for years. Severing it felt like cutting an umbilical cord. As these tangible steps solidified my separation, I found myself reflecting, trying to understand how I'd let things get this far. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the constant, low-level erosion of self-worth that comes from being perpetually overlooked. 1, 4, 4, 9. It's strange, the psychology of being the invisible one. People think the opposite of love is hate. But it's not. The real opposite of love is indifference. Hate at least acknowledges your existence. It recognizes you're there, that you matter enough to despise. But indifference, it's a quiet erasure. It turns you into a ghost in your own life, your own home. My journey wasn't about forcing them to finally see me. It was about me finally seeing myself, recognizing my own value, even when standing in the shadows they cast. It was about understanding that my worth wasn't tied to their acknowledgement or lack thereof. My phone continued to buzz, a relentless barrage from the family. Mom sent tearful texts. "How could you do this to us?" After everything, Dad tried a different tactic, appealing to logic or his version of it. Emily, this legal action is unnecessarily aggressive. We can resolve this amicably. Call me. Jessica's messages were a chaotic mix of fury and pleading. You're destroying this family. Brandon's parents are asking questions, followed by, Please, Em, I'm sorry, I'll pay you back for the wedding money somehow, just stop this. I read them initially with a knot in my stomach, but increasingly with a sense of detachment. Their panic wasn't about losing me, it was about losing access. Their apologies weren't born of remorse, they were born of desperation. Their definition of amicable resolution meant me backing down and restoring the status quo. I didn't reply to any of them. Each ignored message felt like reinforcing a newly built wall, one designed not to keep love out, but to keep manipulation and entitlement at bay. Aunt Jennifer called, offering support. Heard things escalated. How are you holding up? Better than expected, I admitted. Taking action feels right, necessary. Good for you, she said warmly. Don't let them guilt you. You did what you had to do. Her unwavering support was a stark contrast to the conditional affection I'd received from my immediate family. It highlighted the difference between chosen family and obligated family. Elizabeth confirmed the final steps were complete. The condo was secure under new management. The bank had formally acknowledged the shift in responsibility for Jessica's old loan, though my guarantor status remained a potential, albeit now less likely risk. All joint accounts were closed. I was financially free. The realization settled in slowly, not as a burst of euphoria, but as a quiet, steady calm. The constant hum of anxiety about the next family, financial emergency, began to fade. The weight of unspoken obligations lifted. I looked around my Tempe apartment, simple, functional, entirely mine. For the first time, it felt completely like home, a space defined by my choices, funded by my efforts, and free from the encroaching shadows of family expectation. The severance was complete. Now came the task of building a future on this newly cleared ground. The silence from my immediate family didn't last long, but the nature of their communication shifted. Direct demands turned into something more insidious. About 3 weeks after I'd legally severed ties, Aunt Jennifer called again, her voice tight with anger. Emily, you need to know what they're doing. What now? I asked, bracing myself. Your mom and dad, she said. They're telling people you're the reason they're having financial problems. Spreading stories around Scottsdale, how you became successful and then just abandoned them. Cut them off out of pure selfishness because you didn't want to share your new wealth. My blood ran cold. Abandoned them after everything, after the $25,000 for Jessica's course, the $40,000 for their bills, the years subsidizing their lifestyle via my condo. Are people believing it? Some are, Jennifer admitted grimly. The ones who only see the surface, the perfect Scottsdale family image they've cultivated for years. Others who know your work ethic, they're questioning it. But the narrative is out there, Emily. They're trying to paint you as the villain to save face. It stung deeper than I expected. Being excluded, being used, that was one kind of pain. But being publicly misrepresented, having my character assassinated by the very people I'd propped up, that felt like a violation on a whole new level. I'd worked tirelessly, ethically building my reputation from scratch. And now they were trying to tear it down to deflect from their own irresponsibility and entitlement. The smear campaign had real-world consequences, too. A potential client in Phoenix, someone who ran in similar social circles as my parents, suddenly went cold after several promising meetings. Coincidence? Maybe, but the timing felt suspicious. Then came the call from Brandon Jessica's fiancé. It came late one evening, his number unfamiliar. "Emily, it's Brandon Lee. Sorry to call so late, but I needed to talk to you." His voice sounded strained, hesitant. "What's wrong, Brandon?" "Jessica, things aren't great between us right now," he admitted. "After the wedding, after you weren't there, she told me some story about you having a work emergency. But then things started coming out. Whispers from her family financial stuff. She finally admitted you two had a major falling out. But her version doesn't quite add up, especially after I heard what your Aunt Jennifer said to my mother." He paused. "Was it true? Did they really lie about the wedding date?" "Yes, Brandon," I said quietly. "They did." He sighed heavily. "And this condo in Palm Springs, Jessica always implied it was basically hers, a family place. But now I'm hearing you own it solely." "That's correct," I confirmed. "And until recently, they were managing it. And it turns out using the rental income for their own expenses, including some wedding costs." There was a long silence on his end. "God, Emily, I had no idea. She's been presenting a very different picture. All this talk about her booming brand, her success. But now she's asking me for money constantly. It doesn't track." "No, Brandon," I said. "It wouldn't. I needed to hear your side," he finished lamely. "I'm sorry you were treated like that. It wasn't right." His call, his dawning realization, offered a strange sort of validation. He was seeing behind the curtain, recognizing the inconsistencies, the performance. It didn't fix anything between me and my family, but it confirmed I wasn't crazy. The reality I had finally confronted was indeed the reality. Meanwhile, the consequences for Jessica and my parents continued to mount. Jennifer kept me updated, acting as a reluctant but necessary conduit of information. Jessica lost a significant brand collaboration she'd been counting on. Apparently, the company did some due diligence and found her online engagement didn't match the image she projected. Her influencer career seemed to be imploding without the safety net of my funds or the Palm Springs condo backdrop for her photo shoots. My parents were hit hard too. Without the condo income and my contributions, they were forced to make actual budget cuts. Jennifer heard they'd put their oversized Scottsdale house on the market, looking to downsize. Dad's golf club membership was canceled. Mom's frequent boutique shopping trips ceased. They were experiencing, perhaps for the first time, the direct financial consequences of their spending habits and Jessica's dependency. Did I feel satisfaction? Not exactly. There was a grim sense of vindication, perhaps. A confirmation that my boundaries were necessary, that their lifestyle had been unsustainable and propped up by my sacrifices. But mostly I felt a profound sadness for the relationships we could have had, the family. We could have been if respect and honesty hadn't been sacrificed on the altar of image and entitlement. They had made their choices consistently over years. Choices that prioritized appearances over integrity, entitlement over gratitude, the favored child over the responsible one. And now they were living with the outcome. The ripples of reality were washing over them, and I was no longer standing there, bracing them against the tide. I was on my own shore, building my own life, finally safe from the undertow. 6 months melted away, marked by long hours, coding late nights, refining algorithms, and the quiet satisfaction of building something truly my own. My app development business, once a side hustle fueled by caffeine and sheer will, had finally taken flight. We landed 2 major contracts, allowing me to hire my first employee and move into a small functional office space in Tempe. It wasn't flashy, but it was real, built brick by digital brick through my own effort. Phoenix felt like home now. the sharp desert light somehow clarifying. I found a rhythm here, away from the tangled expectations and unspoken resentments of Scottsdale. My apartment, though simple, felt like a sanctuary. My work provided purpose, and my small circle of friends offered genuine connection without calculation. Aunt Jennifer remained my rock. We had weekly video calls, sharing work successes, navigating life's bumps, and occasionally cautiously touching on the family situation back home. She never pried, but always listened her steady presence, a reminder of what healthy family support felt like. "You seem lighter, Emily," she commented during one call, "like you've finally set down a heavy weight." She was right. The weight of their expectations, their judgment, their constant financial need, it was gone. I'd started seeing someone too tentatively at first. Mark, a graphic designer I met at a local tech meetup. He was kind, grounded, and refreshingly unimpressed by family pedigree or financial status. He valued creativity, integrity, and good coffee, things I could relate to. It was early days, but it felt normal, easy. A relationship built on mutual respect, not obligation or transaction. News from Scottsdale trickled in occasionally via Jennifer. Jessica and Brandon's engagement was off. Apparently, the financial strain, combined with Jessica's inability to maintain the successful influencer facade, had fractured their relationship beyond repair. She had, according to Jennifer, moved back in with Mom and Dad, temporarily facing the harsh reality of needing to find actual stable employment. Mom and Dad had downsized, selling the large Scottsdale house and moving into a smaller townhome. Dad had apparently taken the financial hit hard, becoming withdrawn. Mom was trying to adjust, Jennifer said, but the loss of their social standing and the constant presence of a struggling, resentful Jessica was taking its toll. Did I feel vindicated hearing this? Maybe a little, but mostly I felt a distant pity. They were trapped in a cycle of their own, fueled by image obsession and a refusal to live within their means or hold Jessica accountable. Their downfall wasn't my victory. It was the inevitable consequence of choices made long before I drew my final line. Standing on the small balcony of my Tempe apartment one evening, watching the sunset paint the desert sky in fiery oranges and purples, I thought about the Palm Springs condo. The property management company sent regular, detailed reports. The rental income now flowed directly into my investment account, steadily building equity funding my future. It wasn't just a property anymore. It was a symbol of reclaiming what was mine, of asserting my value, of breaking free. The ache of their betrayal hadn't vanished completely. It probably never would. It lingered, sometimes a faint scar tissue around the heart, a reminder of the family I wished I'd had. But it no longer defined me. It no longer controlled my choices or dictated my worth. I'd poured my time, my money, my loyalty into a dynamic that saw me only as a resource, a mistake I wouldn't make again. My condo, my company, my life, they were mine now, forged in the fire of their disrespect, strengthened by my own resolve. The peace I felt wasn't about revenge. It was about liberation. Jennifer's support, Elizabeth's legal expertise, Mark's easy companionship. These connections formed my real foundation, now built on respect, not obligation. My family's choices had cost them dearly. Their image, their financial comfort, their relationship with me. My choice, the hardest one I'd ever made, had cost me a family I thought I knew, but it had given me back myself. This journey taught me a hard truth. Your value isn't determined by what others demand from you, but by what you build for yourself. Allowing others to define your worth, especially when their definition serves only to exploit you, is a slow erosion of the soul. Their betrayal ultimately revealed their character, but it also unlocked my strength. To everyone listening who might see echoes of their own story in mine, know this: don't let anyone dim your light so theirs can shine brighter. Stand firm, define your own worth, and trust that those who truly value you won't ask you to sacrifice your future for their comfort. Sometimes the most powerful act is reclaiming your own narrative. I did, and it changed everything. Have you ever faced a similar family betrayal, especially around finances or expectations? How did you navigate it? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of resilience and finding your own path.